This is Ken Jarrett, the president of AmCham Shanghai. We're in Washington, D.C. this week for our annual door knock, which is when we spend 3 days in Washington talking to members of the administration as well as Congress. Part of the visit is also spent with prominent think tanks in Washington, and we're now at CSIS, and I'm with Chris Johnson, who is the China chair at CSIS. Chris, with the 19th Party Congress coming up in a couple of weeks, what is it that the business community should be paying attention to in terms of significant outcomes that would have an impact on the business community?
Sure. Most people are predicting that President Xi is going to have a big win at the Party Congress, that he will install quite a few allies and so on. And so then the question really becomes, what is he going to do with the power that he's probably going to accrue? I think if you look at it in terms of the different sectors where he might be exerting more authority. If you look, say, for example, in foreign policy, I think we're more likely to see continued sort of activity, more activism by China. If you look domestically, we're likely to see a sort of increased tightening of the ideological and other environment. So it's really the economic sector where there might be the best news for outsiders, and especially U.S. Both government and business interests. And so with that being the case, the question really becomes, is he going to finally address the unaddressed issues from the third plenum and the reforms associated with that? And so there we need to look at who the key personalities are who will be coming in. And those will be key positions including the vice premiers, who's going to be handling the finance portfolio, for example, how the new Financial Stability and Development Committee that was set up by the recent National Financial Work Conference, when will that begin to start solving some of China's debt and other issues? And will we start to see a more level playing field coming after the Party Congress? I think those are the key issues.
Do you think, because there has been a general sense of disappointment with Xi Jinping in terms of his market-oriented approach, and although the third plenum document was one that people sort of read optimistically, but years later, of course, not much has happened. Do you think that with the so-called consolidation of Xi's position, he's in a very strong position already, is this going to, is Xi going to change his stripes?
Right. I don't think he's going to change his stripes. He's certainly not been turning left to turn right or something like that, as people often discuss. But what I do think is he had to spend a lot of time in the first 5 years cleaning up the mess of some of his predecessors. And I think one of those big messes was taming some of the factional rivalries that were going on. You know, you can argue for the last 2 decades, the government has basically been factionally divided between supporters of former President Jiang Zemin and other groupings in the leadership. Xi has effectively quelled that with the anti-corruption campaign primarily. And so with that being the case, there should be more room now to actually carry out on policy directives, because the people won't be fighting amongst themselves. Hopefully they should all be, from one stream, if you will. In terms of will he become more market-oriented, I think you have to take a very nuanced look at it. We're going to definitely see more of the industrial policy we've been seeing, particularly in the key strategic sectors, technology, innovation, etc. But in what they would call non-strategic sectors, I think we're going to see markets dictating prices. I think we're going to see a lot of moves where, while it is not exactly what more market-oriented economies would like to see them do, they will do things that generate their ability to hopefully escape the middle income trap, which has global growth knock-on effects that are beneficial to U.S. firms.
Yeah, well, thanks very much, Chris, for those thoughts on the upcoming Party Congress. So this is Ken Jarrett with the AmCham Shanghai door knock team in Washington, D.C.